And you're very welcome to the Racing Room with AK Bets as we try and figure out if Frankie Dettori just evades tax or no, he avoids tax. Bill Oddie gave him a dressing gown as a Christmas present. He enclosed a receipt so Frankie could take it back. Frankie submitted that receipt for tax purposes. He's guilty as hell, man. That's my little Alan Partridge reference, totally over TC's head. AK gets it, so does Harry. But anyway, on we go. How are we doing, gentlemen? We'll come back to Frankie in just a second. AK, how is the head after the AK Bets Christmas party last night, of which you had three notable absentees?
Three notable absentees. Weather, I believe. Yeah, so it was a shame. Shame you boys couldn't make it. It was all lining up to be a perfect night, but you missed a good steak at FX Buckley's on Pembroke Street, and then you missed a good poker session at the Sporting Emporium.
Who won the poker, as a matter of interest?
Who won the poker? It was a mix between a blow-in pal of mine called Connor, who joined, who is a bit of a poker shark as well as a tax advisor, and Dave Murray, who's head of risk for us. He's a fairly shrewd chap at the poker table. And
Well, would you send them over to Frankie Dettori there so he could sort them out for us? So you think you do a bit of pro bono work there, do you?
Yeah, I think there's probably a job there, an open vacancy at the moment. But yeah, no, it was a cracking night, and it's a shame you boys couldn't make it.
Yeah, well, listen, we'll
very
do
sorry
it
to miss
again. Hurricane Dara, Harry, put paid to our plans, unfortunately, but we'll do it again. We will do it
It
again.
did. Hurricane Dara plus British Airways. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll sort it out for January, guys. Okay, TC, like far be it from me to throw any stones at somebody over tax, problems. Like you're looking at the ultimate like gobshite when it comes to that. But this is an interesting story insofar as that Frankie tried to kind of keep it undercover for a while, and the mask has been revealed, so to speak.
Yeah, it came to light when a tax expert, Dan Needle, tweeted something this afternoon, and then it kind of little spiraled into all the racing press soon after. Yeah, he just tried to. It sounds like he was badly advised at a tax scheme that's gone wrong. They said it was legal, a tax avoidance scheme, and it's backfired. And then HMRC said no, that's not the case. So he's had to. There's mixed reports whether he's yet to pay or is paid in full, but yeah, it sounds a very murky one. If you remember last year, I mean, there was a big hoo-ha about around Frank. He sacked Peter Bowl, his long-time advisor in 2023, and then there was this bizarre episode when he was selling all his memorabilia, and then soon after it transpired he was going to the States. So I
Yeah,
don't know.
Frankie Dettori and John Daly, like standing by the side of the road in their little hut van, selling all their memorabilia. One of them needed the money more than the other, I think. But anyway, go on.
Yeah, I don't know what monies are involved here, but he said something like it's a total mess, and he's going to work with HMRC to sort it all out. But it's a bit of an embarrassment. I just don't know why he didn't come out and just admitted it. There's no
Yeah,
shame badly advised, is there?
he's blaming Harry. He's blaming his financial advisor, which I guess you ought to do in these situations. I do remember Jimmy Carr was caught with something similar. Gary Lineker had a bit of a problem. So it's funny to me, like when someone waves a bit of a flag in front and says, "Hey, I can make your tax disappear," people just don't do the due diligence that they should, and they just go, "Okay, great, do it."
Yeah, look, it's very difficult when you're a successful sportsman because you're always surrounded by people who are looking to provide value to you, in return for work or in, return for badges or in return for investments. So I have some sympathy with him. Um, I think the particular ski they went for. Now, this might be after the event stuff, but the guy was is a solicitor who was or a barrister who was not long after providing this scheme was disbarred, made bankrupt, and then took up a career as a pornography producer.
Right.
So it is quite an astonishing chap and quite an astonishing scheme. I think the real
That's a wide range of skills, Harry. It's a
Yeah,
wide.
like it rather like John Dance, wasn't he? Tycoon and DJ. It's a lot of people now have lots of It's important to diversify your skill set in case you need to move on quickly. But
Yeah.
he the real thing here is that whoever advised him that the right approach to this was to try and get anonymity orders, uh, because this is back page of the Racing Post if it's all done in the open. What's turned this into a story is the fact that they kept making applications to have it made anonymous, which, and according to Dan Needle, and I was reading the submissions earlier that he made on behalf of the taxpayers, lobbying group that he runs.
Yeah.
Um, they never put forward a proper basis on which this should be made anonymous. We have principles of open justice, which of course is that hearings should be open to the public. But what appears to have happened is HMRC came and said, no, this doesn't work, this scheme, you've got to pay tax. They made an application to challenge HMRC. At that point, it should normally become public because you're going to have a hearing, and hearings are done in public. They then made an application to have the appeal heard anonymously. When that failed, they withdrew the appeal altogether in order to avoid his name coming out.
Okay.
So they never even seem to have made the appeal, as far as I can read here. So worried were they about his name coming out. So it does appear to have been done enormously badly. And I have a great deal of sympathy with someone who is not going to be, very au fait with the workings of the upper tax tribunal. So
what's the best policy here,
what his
Harry?
advisors were telling him.
If you're Frankie's shoes here, do you just like is the best policy just to hold your hands up and say, look, I trusted a guy, I went with this fella, he told me X, Y, and Z, it didn't prove out to be correct. Here's the story. I'm sorry. How much do I owe you? Like, is honestly the best policy.
Corporations are in disputes with HMRC all the time about tax. What ultimately, tax legislation is not straightforward, which is why people end up in fights on it. And the answers to whether people should be paying tax. Okay, this one didn't. I don't actually know very much about the scheme, but it doesn't sound from the reports from Dan Needle like it was very good. I think it was described that the chap who ran it was described as one of the leading tax avoidance advisors in the country. So it doesn't sound great.
AK, you must get to write all your personal tax income as just gambling losses, liabilities. Is that the way you do it? Yeah.
Been nothing but gambling losses at the poker table last night. I know that, but I also know that my tax bill of late was fairly substantial and nauseating, but it was fully paid, so has to be done. Contributing to society.
We'll see what happens with Frankie and the old, look, I think just hold the hands up and just go and get it sorted, but it looks like he's doing that now. Right, a busy weekend racing-wise. AK, before we get into it, trading-wise, did you do a lot on the racing? Obviously, we had John Bon over and Sandown. We had Energumene back yesterday. I couldn't believe his price, 6-5, 5-4 thereabouts. How was your week trading-wise?
Yeah, it was okay. It was okay. From a horse racing point of view, Saturday was bad. Obviously, there was a lot of winning favourites even across every meeting that was on, essentially. It was running up money and everything running into John Bon, really. So it was P&L wise, it was a losing day for sure for horse racing. Always good to pay money on the turnover on that. And and then even just from a golf perspective, Scotty Scheffler winning the Hero by 6 shots. There is no man on this planet that's cost me more money than him, I'd say.
Is he verging? Like, I'm not going to ever put him in the Tiger Woods bracket as a player, but as a betting prospect, is he verging towards how? Remember, Tiger would go off 6-4 for a tournament at some stage. Yeah. Is he getting to that stage?
I think it probably is. Like, he's probably benefited from the fact of the split tours and half of the decent players playing outside of the PGA Tour as well. Yeah. But like when I got into the game, like 2005, 2006, Tiger Woods would be going up 7-4 for events. And I always remember there was a Mexican golfer, female, called Lorena Ochoa that used to go off very short for the women's events as well. And you used to get lads doubling the two of them up. So he's gone off. He ended up going up. I think we opened him up at 5-2, and he's probably gone off 2-1 for that event. And he's won by 6 shots again. So
amazing. Right. TC on the track. Look, a great weekend. I'm going to ask you a question, first of all, which will set the tone here. And I asked this yesterday. I was down in Cork for the Hillyweight Chase. If I gave you a bet now on a straight match in the Queen Mother Champion Chase, are you taking John Bon or are you taking Energumene? Straight up.
John Bon. Just because he's more likely to get there in one piece. from an anti-post perspective, it's more likely to get their one piece.
But even if they say they both get there, say they both get there on the day, who are you? Do you think John Bond's a better 2 mile chaser than an Ergumin?
No, at his best, Nurgle means about a £7-8 better horse according to time form. But he ran well below that when winning at the weekend. But John Bond's pretty rock solid, isn't he?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
TC would probably be putting up Ordinary World each way without the 5 out of hundreds or something like that, wouldn't you, TC? So.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Especially if the rain comes.
Not so sleeper about the first 4.
I found a bookmaker who's doing not so sleepy without the first 4 at 6 to. Anyway, so yeah, John Bond. Look,
he's been retired along with the likes of Summergan, so yeah, I can afford to eat in 2025 now. They've been retired.
I didn't realize that nobody had done back-to-back Tingle Creek since Cotto Star TC. That's quite a distance away.
Yeah, it's not the Premier. Well, it used to be, didn't it? But it's not the Premier kind of like Grade 1 that it was.
Yeah.
Go Flyer days. Yeah, it was a very good performance. He did what he had to do. He was 4 or 6 in the morning, which was obviously proved a massive price. But yeah, he's won £1 million now for his owner. And I was working out, even though he's won $1 million, I don't reckon JP's got his money back on that horse yet, because
what did he pay for him?
570.
Right.
So you've got $1 million, just went over £1 million in prize money, and obviously he doesn't get all the prize money. The trainer takes 15%. The jockey takes 7 or 8%. He's got bills. I reckon he's probably just about Drew level, and that horse has won just over £1 million. So that tells you, what silly money's been paid. Actually, I was going to mention in the intro. Old Keir Jarabson was at it again. He paid 4.8 million for a horse called You Got to Me.
She won the Irish Oaks, right?
Yeah, but we last saw her finishing last of 7 in the St. Ledger, and she went for 4.8 million last week.
Right.
He must be getting into 35, 40 million territory now. What he spent in the last couple of months, madness. He's getting to the stage where the sport can't afford him to fail, if you know what I mean. It's quite bizarre. But yeah, going back to the track, we got your old mate, Fast or Slow. He's out for the season. That was bad news.
There's my £20 anti-post King George bet up in smoke. But I think the 3 mile division will be weaker for him not being there. Obviously, he was a big player. I think Factifile coming through, and obviously we have Spillans Tower and a few others as well in England. But yeah, I'm disappointed he's out, I have to say.
Yeah, JP's might be targeting Spillane's Tower and Corbett's Cross at the King George, so that race is beefing up quite a bit now. What else do we have over the weekend? Just looking at them.
What about Lotus Sud? Where do you stand on Lotus Sud? Because again, there's a split opinion across the old social media platforms. Half think, yeah, he's a proper star novice chaser. Others say, no, I'm not convinced about him. What do you think?
I think he is a proper horse. I wouldn't back him at 6s because we haven't seen all the Irish wheeling out all their 2 mile novice chasers yet, have we? So, and they tend to be a lot tastier than ours. But yeah, he won very well. What else did we have? You were probably at Navan on Saturday, were you? Elliot had a 4-time.
Yeah. The Yellow Clay won by just like the shortest distance. I mean, I like that horse, but that performance wasn't great. I'm reevaluating how I see him now. But yeah, Elliot just loves Navan. He loves it.
Gillo won the Peterborough Chase. Atrocious conditions. That defeat is ruled out. Protectorate from the King George. We've lost one from that race. Hong Kong on Sunday morning. We had Giavoletto won about 1.4 million for Marco Botti, and a horse became the highest earner in history. I think it was a horse I've never heard of really. Romantic Warrior became the highest earning racehorse by winning the Hong Kong Cup. So according to the Racing Post, he has now copped £17,883 sterling. So I think he's probably paid for himself by now.
Just about, yeah.
It goes to show, isn't it? You've got a horse like John Bond, won 16 of 19. He's just crept over $1 million, and that horse has got 18 times as much.
Yeah.
I love it. And you're at Cork on. You're probably best of it. We'll finish off with Cork, and there was a sad postscript to the Hilly Way came
Yeah,
out.
Fernie Hollow went, and like I was joking with Jay Mangan and Davy Russell beforehand. He came down. Patrick Mullins was on him. And I said, like, if you sneeze on that horse, he gets injured. Like he's literally the most fickle. But like he took a bad fall. He got up then and trotted away, but I think he just had to be put down afterwards. So something happened. But I think he was a pretty winner of the Supreme Court. Just we didn't get to see him GC like in anywhere near his full flight because he just spent half his career injured.
If you remember, after he won his bumper and won his first three chases in 2021, he just looked like the next superstar on the block, didn't he? But like you said,
Yeah.
injuries and setbacks just did for him. And yeah, that's postscript. Your old mate Energamy, sounds like you backed him. He won on
I did.
his comeback since Punchestown 2023, so that was a good performance. But the interesting one is Banbridge. I watched the race and I didn't think he was going to come to win, but I'd look at the in running betting and he traded at 4 to 6 in running.
He was never winning. He was never winning that race. He was never winning.
Right, but money doesn't lie. I mean, he traded at 1.66, which
It depends whose money it is, TC.
I couldn't get my head around there. But Banbridge was giving the winner £10, and it sounds like they're going to go ground permitting. It sounds like they're going to go for the King George. So
Yeah.
that's the boring racing review over.
Okay. All right. That is the dirty work out of the way. So look, it's been a busy week, guys, in terms of the governance issues, and like a lot of the stuff that we have been talking about over the last few weeks has really kind of hit the surface, particularly over the last kind of 10 days or so in regards to the Gambling Commission, and that got an awful lot of stick this week. I think, proper order as well. But I guess it remains to be seen now what kind of comes out of this, right? But we had a statement from, give me the name, TC. We had a statement.
Martin Curtis.
Martin Curtis, yes. Okay. So here's Martin Curtis' statement here. And the backdrop to this is the government is overseeing a decline in a sport, horse racing, which brings so much joy to every part of society. So here we go. We'll shortly be writing to the Secretary of State and Prime Minister to outline our major concerns with these figures. Bluntly, the Gambling Commission increasingly appears to be unaccountable and out of control. Moreover, it continues to be unable to demonstrate any evidence as to the impact that the current affordability measures are having on problem gambling rates. It is well established that the Commission wishes to introduce affordability checks on a minimal sum per day, sitting at a similar rate to a range of everyday items from a child's Happy Meal at McDonald's or a ticket to the cinema. In Great Britain in July this year, despite admitting to having serious doubts about the reliability of the data, we've ended up with a somewhat dystopian situation of the Commission pleading with the survey is not used to estimate problem gambling rates, which is exactly what a number of gambling-related pressure groups were probably able to do. Furthermore, there's a well-documented history of the Gambling Commission providing millions of pounds of public funds to anti-gambling activist groups. Some of these funds have been spent in support of campaigning and propaganda in direct breach of the Commission's own rules. I and everyone across British racing have major concerns that the Gambling Commission is more preoccupied with the attending overseas conferences than with the wholly unnecessary decline of our great sport and industry at home. We all imagine that every racing jurisdiction across the world, none of which has the concept of affordability, is looking at the UK perplexed, wondering how our government can oversee such a decline in a sport which transcends and brings so much joy to every part of society. It's pretty hard hitting, AK. At long last, the Gambling Commission is getting it in the throat. You must be delighted.
I'm definitely not delighted in any way. The whole situation to me is just very, very depressing. It's it's hard to know. It's hard to even just say anything new on it for me, to be honest with you, because it's just.
Do you know what it is? Do you know what it is, AK, right? Like we're going around in circles here, right? And last week we were listening to other heads, like, jump on the Gambling Commission and say, but nobody is proposing a solution here. And we're not going to get wrapped up in this, guys, like, because we don't have the answers here. But nobody is prepared to say, look, we need to stop this. We need to take control. It's just. Yeah.
I think that the affordability checks and things of that nature have probably had the most detrimental effect on UK horse racing. I think you can undoubtedly say that. What they achieve, and I think I've said previously, I think everything is well intentioned, but I think it's just not working, is it? It's not working at all, and I don't think problem gambling rates. As I've said to you before, I think they're going to get worse, and I think they're going to be offshore, and I've nothing really to add. Like it's a real
Yeah,
difficult one for me. I
yeah.
think it's just thoroughly depressing, the state of the industry at the moment, and it will get worse.
What do your mates say to this, TC? Like, before we move on here, like, is there a sense for people who have been in this game a long time and seen all sorts of twists and turns and ups and downs that this is actually we're nearing here like a real crisis point here that we're almost past the point of no return here.
Yeah, I've known people in journalism since I started in around 86, 87. Went straight from school into the Racing Post. Not one of them will go into racing journalism now. They do think it's a dead duck in the current climate, and I think like Anthony said, I think it's only going to get worse. I've got very good friends, long-standing friends of near 40 years, who haven't bet on the exchange for ages because they've asked him for details. Bank not doing it, so it was a point blank cut off, and that's where he did most of his betting. So he's
I think we,
everyone,
yeah, I think we all
everyone,
know people. I think we all know people, even just my friend group and just people around me like that you would have grown up with and you got into racing with, and sure, people are moving on from it and doing other things. It's kind of for me, it's fairly depressing. Like you're almost like the last man standing in your group involved in the game. Essentially, like everyone is just migrating to doing other things. It feels like a real terminal decline. I think some of the points there in that letter are fair around the governance of where some of the money is being handed out to. I don't think that's been done optimally. Um, yeah, I think just the like I think there's a question on it later, but some of the stuff around affordability and the gambling commission and Andrew, Mr. Rhodes coming out and saying that affordability checks aren't in place, but like there's only it's a real thing about syntax really. That is technically true, but then some of the things that the gambling commission request of operators, there's no other way to obtain it than by requesting bank statements. So it's kind of affordability checks do not exist in reality, in on paper, but in reality, some of the things that do exist you can only obtain by getting people's bank statements, and I think that's it's you just everyone's just skirting around the issue and what's causing the issues basically. Like people don't want friction. We live in the most technologically advanced times where people just if you're loading up an internet browser and it takes 4 seconds, you find a different app because it's just not acceptable. Friction is just not acceptable to people these days. Um,
Why doesn't somebody package this up and like just outline how stark this is? Like the jobs that will be lost if racing goes, the communities that will be absolutely devastated. If stables are forced to shut down, trainers. Like this is an economic driver of and sustainability for everybody involved with it and the wider kind of, I guess, the fringe associates of racing. But like Keir Starmer, I remember like we were talking about like the fawning piece when Keir Starmer turned up at Doncaster. Uh, like Lee Mottershead's piece. Oh, isn't this fantastic? Why doesn't somebody go to him and say, "Look, do you understand? Like, if this continues, racing and this industry is gone,
yeah,
and you have to."
Well, we're led to believe that's what the BHA is doing. I mean, we're told that the reason you don't hear about the BHA talking publicly is because they're doing it privately. Well, fine, but it doesn't appear to be working.
It's
yeah,
not.
The thing about there was a funny thing about that Doncaster trip from Keir Starmer. That was what he got pulled up on that about not declaring his expense. So he had
Yeah,
to pay all the money back from that. I think he
yeah,
had to pay 1,700 quid a pop for him and his wife and his two guests.
bloody
So
hell.
that wouldn't have minded. That would have minded him towards racing. But the thing about the BHA is Nevin Truesdale turned up on ITV's The Opening Show on Saturday morning, and for all his failings, Jockey Club racecourses failings and problems, etc. I spoke to one of the guys at ITV, and he said he always fronts up, he always turns up, he always answers, the nitty gritty questions. And ITV also asked the British Gaming Council to go on and the BHA. The British Gaming Council declined, but sent in a statement. The BHA not only declined to go on the show, they also declined to give a statement. Now, at a time like this, I don't think that's acceptable. You have
That's
we've said it time and time again.
That is dereliction of duty. That should
Yeah.
be just.
But, and in the meantime, in appreciation of the dire straits that the sport is in, they've decided to appoint an acting CEO, and basically, cuff his hands behind his back before he starts, because he's going to have absolutely no power. No one knows how long he's there for. I mean, of all the times to not actually just, you know, take a stance and say this is who's going to sort it out, and this is the person to do it. It's just such a typical BHA.
I tell you who could sort it out, Harry. I tell you who could sort it out. Michael O'Leary. Get Michael O'Leary in to British racing, and he will fix it.
And he'd have got us to Dublin for the AK Betts party as well, unlike BA.
Complete autonomy, complete power to do what he likes. I'm telling you, he'd sort it, he'd fix it, and he wouldn't give a shit who he offended or which race courses he said, sorry, pal, your little Tuesday afternoon meeting's gone. And that's what it needs. It needs somebody to come in and just cut and say, this is it.
Yeah.
The sad thing about this is nobody's got any. Everyone knows what the problem is, but nobody's got a solution. I haven't heard one. I haven't heard one solution on this.
I've got a solution.
What's your solution, AK?
It's just affordability checks, and the friction there just doesn't work. It's the whole point of this, and it's a really admirable point, and it's what everybody should be working towards, is protecting problem gamblers. That is the fucking crux of the issue, basically, and it's not being achieved by this, and it's destroying the game. That's literally it. It's not being achieved. It's making it worse.
I got an email over the weekend by a guy who won £670,000 at a bookmaker on roulette machine, 7k a spin. And he said, they're not paying out. What can I do about it? I looked them up, and you Google them. They call themselves the UK's most popular casino. They're not registered by the UK Gambling Commission. There's absolutely nothing he can do to get the money out of them in the jurisdiction that they're in. And they're on Google as the UK's most popular casino.
Jesus,
that is that's terrifying.
I hear that. I hear those ones all the time. It's usually not for sums quite as big as that, but
Well, look, we'll move on from this, TC, because I want to put a bright spark on what has been a pretty depressing and bleak conversation. At the very least, TC, the weighing rooms and changing rooms around England are up to speed. They have the finest of facilities. Everything is top drawer. Men, women jockeys, you name it. What do you want? Hot showers, places to go. It's great. Isn't that what we found this week? Everything is hunky-dory as regards to weighing room.
This is staggering. And for all, I think a lot of people would say Martin Crutch's statement was a bit rich, coming from ARC, who are not universally loved by everyone in racing. This scenario is in 2021. Basically, all the race courses were told they have to upgrade their facilities for women in the changing rooms, have their own changing rooms. So that was in 2021. It transpires in February of this year that basically the PGA and the Racecourse Association told everyone that this wouldn't be happening. This wouldn't be happening this year. So we have a situation where only 12 of the 20 have hit the 2024 target. So only 12 of 60 racecourses have done what they were told to do in 2021. And now I think it came out in a press call with the BHA last week. Apparently only 50 of the 60 will have changing rooms for women dedicated. Only 50 of the 60 tracks will have those in place by December 2027. Yes, you've heard that right. So 10 tracks won't have done what's been required of them in 6 years. Now, I don't know what kind of renovations they're planning on doing. But
do they want golden toilets that flush like a singing tune as you kind of sit there? Or what's the problem here?
10 tracks can't get that done in 6 years. I mean, it's mind-blowing. And now they're saying 10 of the tracks, they've not been named, 10 of the tracks are saying by December 2027, they're likely not to have these, dedicated women's
Like
changing rooms in place.
we're actually half joking there and that, but like if you're a female and you're 19 or whatever, this is fairly horrific stuff. Like
Horrific.
at what point do you have a case against some of these tracks and stuff like that? Like this is absolutely not acceptable. It's madness.
Yeah.
It's got to 2024 and 12 of them have done it. Like
Yeah.
they should literally be like, you're just not a safe place to conduct racing.
And it doesn't. It's
it's
not.
not
Like you're not trying to solve the Krypton factor here. Like it sounds like an easy fix. Why is it taking so long? It's like the Irish government recently commissioned a bike shed that cost like €350,000. Like why is this taking so long? Geez, it doesn't make
They're
sense.
saying because a lot of these need to be knocked down and rebuilt. Yes, but
Do it then.
houses are built in 6 months, aren't they, from scratch?
Yeah, like
Yeah.
there's no
And they're
you're
saying-
It's a money thing. It's just money, isn't it? And when they have the funds, but one of racing's great selling points, or potential selling points, is the ability of women and men to compete at the highest level together, and then to undermine it by basically saying, well, except the women have nowhere to get changed in order to compete with men at the highest level, is a pretty sad indictment.
Yeah, no, it is. Like
Because
absolutely.
seven of the 12 tracks have done it are independents. So
Yeah.
It
presumably,
can be done.
it's
presumably all the big money racecourse groups
yeah.
have delivered.
It's because there's no consequence to them not doing it. There's no
That's
consequence.
the point. That's the point, right? So there's no consequence to this, right? And they're like everyone kind of raises an eyebrow. And also as well, I'd say that they're saying, well, we're not using our money here. Like, where's the money going to come from? We're not prepared to divvy up our budget here. So and there's no repercussions, as AK said. So like off they go. Anyway, amazing. Right. Last week, Lingfield, Fergus Sweeney was a popular man in the post-race comments about the stewarding decision and not to overturn the result of the race. Lost in time. Odds on to get the race, TC, but not according to the stewards. I think everybody but Fergus Sweeney and the two other lads thought the result should have been overturned. It was pretty incredulous, really, when you think about it. Yeah, I don't know what to say about this, really, because look, anyone who watched the head on and watched the replay of the race will say, how has the winner not lost that race?
I don't know. It's probably one of the worst decisions I've seen. It just seemed like a no offers job to me. I mean, I didn't watch the race live and I didn't watch the betting, but some people said it was the second was backed into 10s on to get the race, as is always the case here. The longer the stewards' inquiry goes on, the more the horse drifts. So I think he ended up about 1.3, if you believe some people on Twitter. But you watch that race, the head on was there for everyone to see. It just beggars belief, and it was made worse by the fact that Fergus Sweeney, the steward on duty, ex-jockey, just came out and gave a pretty moderate interview with
Very
Matt
kind.
Chapman. I am being kind there because you have to be, Fergus Sweeney.
Well, he came out to explain himself, which is more than most of them do. You could get some credit for that.
Yeah, but it's and a lot of people. I think he's been quite badly done to by people who are bringing up the fact because he's an ex-jockey. He rode for Pat Phelan, who trained the winner, who was punted from big prices into single figures.
I missed it. I missed this.
I actually missed that as well.
Back up the truck a second there. So the guy, one of the stewards who came out, Fergus Sweeney, used to ride for the guy who kept the race.
He had a record of seven winners from 71 rides for Pat Phelan. But he's jockey. But he can't recuse himself.
Yeah, we can't question him on that, but it's interesting anyway.
No, but it's interesting. But obviously he has a relationship with the trainer. But he has. I had a look at his record. He's ridden for hundreds of trainers.
Yeah.
So
but the optics are so bad, though.
I know, but
it's not that. It's the decision. It's the decision that's.
He might have ridden for the second, third, fourth in the past. I didn't really go into that in that great detail, but your next jockey, you have to kind of officiate on these stewards' inquiries, and you are going to have personal contact. and personal knowledge of the trainers and owners involved, even if you haven't directly ridden for them.
Do we know who the
And
other
we
two are?
and we moan that we don't have enough ex-jockeys involved in the governance of the sport as well. So and if you are an ex-jockey, you're going to be very well connected to the people that you're
I,
that you're dealing
I
with.
thought that was out of order, but I didn't think he came across very well and explained himself.
Yeah.
But he was put in a situation whereby he was trying to defend the indefensible, because I don't know anybody who's seen that head on that's said that wasn't.
Apparently, the side-on's even worse, from what I've heard.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So it's
Who,
been
uh,
interesting.
who were the other- Who were the other two stewards? Sorry, he's getting plenty of dogs abuse, and he was the only one who brought it up.
Stevie
question.
Wonder and Ray Charles.
Set you up for that one.
it was a Roger Phelan and a Margaret Phelan, apparently.
Yeah, incredible. Look, I think everyone just accepts it was just and look, again, it's just another kind of thing, another kind of whip to kind of beat the sport with. It was crazy.
I'm surprised you haven't been called upon for the appeal, Harry.
Well, I know I was approached. I think they are appealing, but the prize money, they very wisely decided it wasn't worth throwing money at a lawyer, and I think that they're going to
Priced yourself out of the gig, Harris, did you?
do it
Priced
themselves.
yourself out of it.
Well, I think the prize money was like about 1,300 quid or something, wasn't it, for first place? It was.
Yeah.
I'll get them 2 letters, Harry. I'll get them 2 letters.
That's your fee for picking up the phone, Harry.
Absolutely, exactly. You know, I can't mess around with these things. So yeah, listen, they're going to do it themselves, as I understand it, and very often for things like that, interference ones, you know, horsemen are the people to be doing it. So
Yeah.
I fancy chances.
Yeah,
But
they've
surely-
gone with they've gone
Surely he
line
can
of Huts.
represent it himself, can't he? Just all he has to do is like point at the TV and said, "Look at what case."
Yeah,
my case.
yeah. Just press play and then sit back. Yeah.
Yeah, Lionel Hutz could do it. Like, you know what I mean? This is the greatest case of fraudulent advertising since my suit against the never-ending story.
I remember that one.
Right. Patrick Mullins trying to follow in Willie's footsteps, TC, with the amateur UK title. How difficult will that be to do you think?
Quite hard if today's anything to go by, because he had a 2-7 shot at Lingfield that finished last. But yeah, he's just won the HWPA Writer of the Year, and he's trying to win the UK Amateur Jockey title. I mean, if Willie Mullins starts bringing horses over, you know, for the rest of the season, and he'll just pack a few more in and get Patrick to ride him, isn't he? If he wants to win it, it's like Willie in the trainer's title, but perhaps not now with the lead Skelton's got. If Willie really wanted to win the trainer's title, he would have set out his stall and won it. And if Patrick Mullins wants to win the UK Amateur title, then I suggest he probably will.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting to see how that goes. Right. Listener questions, and we have a few this week because it hasn't been a kind of bustling news week. And we'll get to all of them, I think, which is great. Right, so here we go. Frank Grimes with the first one. Good old Grimey. Is Il Atlantique the best Arkle proposition running this weekend? Oh, Jesus, really? Do you think so, Frank? TC?
He was impressive. I don't think the second was seen at his best. Waterford Whispers, who's a very promising horse, but he was very weak in the market. And Il Atlantique did win over 2 mile 4 there, but they've always said he's a free going sort that could go back to 2 miles. But I'm not one of these people who views every race in the prism of the Cheltenham Festival in March. So possibly, yes,
I am.
You are. You and David Jennings, you like that?
I tell you what, yes, I am. I love DJ, and I love his stuff, by the way, as well. I should have stuck up for him last week when you guys were fucking shitting all over him.
You bottled it. You bottled it as you did.
No, I did, but no, because I said I said the previous week that I like DJ stuff because I was given out by the Racing Post. So I said I like DJ stuff. So then you guys were having shit. I just didn't come back in, but I regret it now. And DJ, I love your stuff, and I think you're great, even though you look like Quagmire. And I keep thinking you're going to date rape some poor young one going out in the thing there. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, I love your stuff, DJ, is what I'm saying. But you do look like Quagmire, which is hilarious.
Right. He looks like a young Terry Wogan, but
do you think so? Yeah.
who's Quagmire?
Quagmire is Family Guy. Go and watch an episode of Family Guy.
Yeah,
He's a sexual deviant, basically, TC. Yeah. Not that GJ is, but he looks like him.
The answer to that question took a serious right-hand turn.
Yes. How do we get to here? Right, Frank Grimes. What was wrong with your question? Okay, Brian Buddy says this is on the Lingfield decision we just talked about. Don't I feel like a right idiot? DJ Jennings, the aforementioned. We all want racing to be at where your column wants it to be. Someone said if the bookies pay out on 2 winners, first past the post, then what is that? Is this?
I
think he was suggesting that. Yeah,
he just thinks there's Brian's a good guy. Actually, I know him quite well. He thinks there's a reluctance to chuck horses out because bookmakers would have to pay double result, and if they pay out double result, it affects the levy. So therefore, he thinks there's a bit of a conflict of interest or a bit of a conspiracy theory there. I'd like to think that wasn't true.
Occam's razor, Brian. Occam's.
Yeah, Brian, and you've made me sound like a complete illiterate trying to read your thing out. So thanks very much for that. Jimmy Justice says, did the early start and early finish at Wetherby boost turnover there and at Sandown? It was a 10:35 minute start. Did it?
We're such a small horse racing bookmakers. I can't really comment for the industry. But
I think
no, it didn't do it.
Chris Paul of Bet Victor chimed in on that question and on Twitter, and he said they showed very, very little. But what really got me is if you're asking whether, and apparently Wetherby they might have had a bitter festival or a real ale festival there. So apparently they were queuing up at 9:30 to get in for an early drink at Wetherby. But they started at 10:35.
Please drink responsibly.
Drink responsibly.
Come in and drink all you want from 9 a.m., but you can't bet over €5 on your splitters.
What really got me, if they're starting at 10:35, why not start at 10:15 and put the race live on the opening show on ITV?
Yeah, that's an idea for you.
That would boost. Yeah, so I'll have my finder's fee for that suggestion.
There you go. Jimmy Justice says, oh no, sorry, that was Jimmy Justice. Andre Jordan says, should race courses be forced to make earlier decisions to call meetings off before connections or race course set off on their journey to the race course? Well, I mean, it's kind of like you're how can you do that? You can't enforce that. They call it off when it's not raceable, I think, and that's.
He was reference Sandown there, isn't it? Because they had a 7, and then it went to 9:30, and it was going to be windy all day. And I understand. But I think people were bearing in mind that you wouldn't want to drive a HGV in 50 mile an hour gusts to get to Sandown.
Yeah, very
bad to your tarpaulins. Yeah.
Yes. First passing down. Colin Horde says, what's the panel make of Andrew Rhodes' letter in Racing Post arguing that the GC's Gambling Commission have never asked for affordability checks? I don't know.
Yeah, it's just like we said, like it's not directly but indirectly. There's only the only way you can get some of the information that they want to see is by bank statements. Like it's like all these checks they're only as good as you did. Like the checking itself is a friction, as we've described, and then the information you glean from it is only as good as the day you receive it as well. You could have 4 million quid in the bank and share your first name with a reasonably priced car, and then buy a yearling for 4 million quid the next day, and you've got no money. And sure, you've got 4 million quid on paper with the bookies. Like it I don't know. It just doesn't work.
Just a very quick question on this. A lot of people there seems to be confusion about the Gambling Commission have said we're not asking for you to implement all these checks, but all bookmakers think they have to implement the checks.
I think there's a conflation. I think there's a conflation of affordability checks and AML and KYC checks, and I think that it's all just sort of turned into one homogenous where bookmakers aren't quite sure what they're asked to do. And I know I've gone about it. It all comes back to the fact that bookmakers, it's not properly explained to them what they are supposed to be doing.
It's only everything is guidance.
Yeah.
Everything is guidance. Now, I have to concede that I've never been in. I'm not a compliance guy. I've never been in a GC audit. So what I did prior to this call was rang around my contacts in the industry who've been in GC audits. And this is the information they were giving me, like just regarding affordability, and the only way you can get some of the information that's needed is literally by requesting it. Essentially, it's like I say, everything is guidance, and everyone is overdoing things because you get fined. You get fined if you don't.
And you're not told you've done how to do it until you're told you've done it wrong, which is a really bad way of regulating.
You get a lot of bookies that do the soft checks, right? So here's another interesting area that I've looked into. You get the soft checks, which go on outside of customers, but there's numerous firms that can do them. And my understanding from contacts in the industry is, depending on what firm you use, some of the checks return different results with the different providers. Like, it's not like one universal answer. It's like one provider will say, yeah, this guy's grand, and the same provider with the same information will say that another bookie uses say the guy's not. It's just a mess. It's just a real mess.
Yeah. Okay. David Brown says, what do you make of Tom Cannon's decision to remount and ride Edwardstone back after he just tumbled? I appreciate the vet said he was fine, but surely the safest option is to let the jockey get a lift back, which is easily done, as you just don't know for a fact that he was definitely okay. I saw this on Twitter, actually. He responded to, I think Declan Ricks was questioning his decision to remount, and he came back to Declan and said, the vet told me I was fine to do it. So, like, on that basis, TC, is he fine to do it?
It did look. I was watching that and I thought it looked very odd. I thought it looked very strange, because obviously, if a horse falls now, you're not allowed to remount it. And that Edwardstone fall was pretty bad, and a lot of people feared for the horse's well-being. So it was a bit odd that he actually got back on the horse, and actually, instead of just walking the horse back in. Now, as you said, apparently the vet checked the horse out. It was fine. So he presumably gave Tom Cannon the all clear to do that. But I just think there was no downside to just walking the horse back, because, as we all know, because a horse is okay immediately after a fall, it doesn't mean there's some long-term damage.
Yeah, but I mean, look, I take that point, but ultimately, we've got to be able to rely in welfare matters on veterinary advice, and I think we need to be careful in this climate of trying to look beyond what vets are telling people, because it really isn't for us watching videos to second guess the veterinary advice. And if you're told by a vet he could ride it back, that's it. Otherwise, that way madness lies if we start going beyond that.
I totally agree, Harry. And I spent half my time giving out about the perception that is forced on racing, and we have to adhere to this perception of the sport. Like, if the horse is okay and the vet says it's okay, what more?
That's it.
Do you do?
That's it. No? And vets will be wrong from time to time, but we don't live in a perfect world, and we've got to accept that.
Yeah. PFM says, what's your opinion of the high prices paid for yearlings over the past few months? Well, mostly from Ammo and Kia. The comment from Bloodstock agents: how many of these purchases will return a profit? If you're going to create a Bloodstock dynasty, what would your strategy be? Oh Christ. My strategy would be to apply for a loan somewhere that would give us
first get 500 million quid and then go from there.
Yeah.
I don't know. The strategy would be stick your hand up and say that'll be 5% of the purchase fee, please.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, look, it's crazy. The Bloodstock industry has gone mad, and we said last week, like, is there no recompense here that the Bloodstock industry should be contributing to the sport that is literally servicing, and without which there would be no industry.
Harry said that on a couple of occasions, and the more you hear about these figures, 4.8 for You Got Me just last week, the more you see about the figures being bandied around. And there was another one, Sparkling Penty, I think it might be the Coolmore Ballydor boys paid £5 million for that. It's just crazy money.
Yeah.
And in a sport that's on its arse in every other metric you care to mention, it does seem an outlier and an absolute madness, doesn't it?
Imagine all the changing rooms you could build. Be unbelievable.
Wow. Yeah, exactly.
Gold toilets all the world round. You can have those Japanese hot toilets as well. I tell you what, there's something.
Those 10 racecourses got 9 years to build one. That better be good when they're done.
9 years.
Yeah.
Dave Douglas says, do you lads think a centralised BHA-owned betting exchange for horse racing could revive the sport? Wow.
BHA
AK would
owns.
agree.
They'll have to sort that internet connection out for that. I'd say. No,
They've enough trouble running the actual sport, let alone a bloody.
I'd love to see
God.
it. I'd love to
This
see
old
it.
chestnut has been knocking around from various people. I mean, do you remember the days where Betdaq tried to take on a Betfair and Dermot Desmond piled in tens of millions of pounds? And I mean, obviously, I worked for Betfair for 2002 to 2013. I mean, that used to go down all the time. The amount of money you have to spend to get an exchange up and running is one thing. To keep it up and running when you get a lot of trade going on, it's astronomical. People just say, "Oh, racing should have its own betting exchange." The cost will be astronomical.
And can I point out, you would still be governed by the Gambling Commission. It doesn't get you around the regulations if the BHA run it. You'd still, why would anyone invest in sums like that when no one can get a bet on?
Yeah.
Okay. The Coke monopoly would be more achievable.
Been asking myself the same thing, Harry.
Yeah, Connor Brady says AK moaned about the tax increase, but then all reasoning came back to proof of funds. Is that not the problem more than any talk of increased taxes?
Problems are multifaceted. It's not just one specific problem. I think, like I say, increased tax in an environment where your customer base is decreasing and your turnover is decreasing is part of the problem. Essentially, it's
okay.
Yeah.
Bert in Doncaster says, given the Paris state of racing's finances, what does British horse racing look like in 10 years' time? Christ.
It looks like greyhound racing looks now.
Yeah.
I think it'd be that good.
It's in trouble. It's in trouble.
A rephrase is, how many tracks do you reckon will be closed in the next 10 years?
In horse racing?
Yeah.
They're going to have to close
quite a few.
25%, I'd say, for the sport to survive.
Yeah. I mean, everyone thinks, it's a lot rosier in Ireland, but a lot of people are moaning about the prize money in Ireland now, aren't they?
The prize money is decent, but the moaning is coming from other sports looking at the funding that racing gets from the government.
That's the thing.
Right?
It's propped up by the government.
That's where the money comes. So you have the Football Association of Ireland who literally are almost bankrupt. They can't pay for anything at the moment. The facilities across the country are dire. They're looking at horse racing going, how the hell do we get what they're getting? And Horse Racing Ireland are clever enough to package it up as an economic incentive for Ireland. Invest in racing and we will give you the returns, as I was talking about earlier on. But like, it's definitely now starting to annoy other sports.
It doesn't stand up to scrutiny, I don't think, when you dig into it. But it's a very lucky industry that it's propped up and subsidised by the
Greyhound got a bit of whack as well, didn't they?
What's that?
That's
the greyhound industry got a fair bit of whack.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, but they lobby well and they play the game. You see, I don't know what the rights and wrongs of it, but right. John Seibler says, here's a question I don't need really expect an answer to. Having watched Matt Chapman's antics on ITV's opening show this morning and then JP's reaction to him after the Tingle Creek, how is this bad Simpsons character considered by ITV to be a plausible broadcaster? Well, he's obviously not a Matt Chapman fan there. Jesus.
No. Matt's got his own tone. He's a tabloid journalist, but I think he's got very good instincts, Matt. I think he thinks about the game much more.
He's a lot smarter than people give him credit for.
Yeah, exactly. Much more deeply than people realise. But he's just got his own way of doing it, which has set him apart from other journalists.
Yes.
But yeah, I think he gets too much stick.
He plays the villain.
Much stick.
He is actually fundamentally a very good journalist. I mean, I don't know how that interview with Nevin Truesdale came about, but he asked pretty much the right questions. There are some questions he could have asked, but no, I think he puts his head on the block quite a bit. I mean, obviously he's not flavour of the month, or flavour of the decade with the BHA, but yeah, I think he's all right. I mean, he lets himself down. He gets a bit too carried away on occasions, but I saw the interview with JP McManus, and JP actually kind of found it really quite amusing. I think most people do.
Ah,
But
they
like I
do.
said,
Look, you know what you're getting with Matt. Like, and when we slag him off, it's like,
He's
he
a,
knows exactly what he's doing. He knows exactly what he's doing, and
I think
that's
I think he's a really good interviewer when he knuckles down. I think he's very good. Said it
yeah.
before.
I also think that he's not afraid to give you his own opinion, and his
Yeah,
opinions,
yeah,
like I
yeah.
say, are
He's
usually
not towing. He's not towing any lines. Like
pretty
he probably
switched on.
probably disguises how smart he is with some of the shtick he comes up with, but like
I
he's no
would,
dummy. He's definitely in plus for horse racing. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah,
And
look,
definitely.
yeah,
I'll end it here. I mean, he wouldn't be particularly well liked by some of his ITV colleagues, but that's their problem more
I
than his.
genuinely wouldn't care about that. It's about what.
No, it's someone up the ladder,
Yeah.
someone up the ITV ladder rates him. Otherwise, he wouldn't be there.
Yeah. Okay. And Phil Bull finally, AK, can AK price up the outgoing Mr. Rhodes to still be in a post at Christmas?
Definitely not. No, I wouldn't be in favour of anybody losing the jobs. It's
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
wouldn't be into that now. But I think some of the stuff. And listen,
I think he is referencing something which I'm not sure we've covered actually, which is this lottery challenge
okay.
and I think that's what he's referring to. Is there seems to be potentially a problem with the way the lottery was awarded to this Czech businessman. That seems to be in litigation at the moment, and the rumours are that the Gambling Commission and the government are setting themselves up for a multi-million pound
Tried to settle, didn't
settlement.
he? I think they
Yeah,
tried to
but I
settle.
mean
and told them to do-
that's the public purse that will be paying for that, and it is quite hard to see if Andrew Rhodes has played any part in it. Of course, we don't know that. It is quite hard to see how you'd stick around if you're in charge of an organisation that screws up a tender process, like to the extent that the public is having to pay many millions of pounds. But we don't know that's what's going to happen yet. But I think that's
Yeah.
what the question's getting at.
Okay, on that bombshell, we will leave it. Download the AK Bets app as always for all your racing and sport offers. We're all off to compile a list of Quagmire's greatest scenes to give it to Tony Calvin to look over. TC, take the most demented pervert you've ever met in your life and multiply it by 100. That's who Quagmire is. Get on it, Family Guy. From all of us here, from all of us here in the racing room, we'll talk to you next week. Have a great week.